Hello. Call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Commissioners, September 18th. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Ernst,
Here.
Commissioner Ing, Commissioner Rollins, Commissioner Vogelsang, and Commissioner Wright.
Okay, any changes to the agenda?
Commissioners, I'd like to remove item number 2, the Ocean Strand Rent.com kayak proposal from the agenda tonight.
Motion.
Move agenda item number 2.
And I second it.
Okay.
Commissioner Ernst, Commissioner Engel, Rollins, Commissioner Vogelsang, Commissioner Wright. Motion passes.
Okay, so public tonight, do we have any?
Hello, Commissioners. Sil Siliberti, and I live 6200 Northwest 2nd Avenue, Boca Raton, Florida. I own a minority interest in the Improv Comedy Club and Copper Blues Rock Pub in Doral City Place. After COVID, the managing members renegotiated our lease to just 5% of the gross sales. It turns out 5% is a beautiful, magical number. Rather than price per square foot in escalations, that number works. I would humbly like to express my suggestion to the commissioners early on, prior to the final negotiations with Boca Paddle Club. The profit sharing plan receipts of 3 to 4% from years 1 to 20 is a low negotiable number. The Boca Paddle Club's RFP states the team philosophy to create vibrant, affordable, unique recreational and cultural amenity for the residents of Boca Raton, as well as provide a sustainable revenue stream for the district. I believe it to be true. There is a win-win-win scenario. Beach and Parks welcomes revenue, but it isn't motivated by it. A bargain 3% of gross as revenue stream for the first 20 years is a steal for Boca Paddle. I say give it to them. Ask for something in return. 1, free outdoor pickleball, absolutely free, no signing up, monthly membership, no fees. A public court in a public park, free to the public. Free open play, similar to El Rio, South Regional. It should be like a basketball court. I got a paddle, you got a paddle, let's play pickleball. The public will win. Number 2, Boca Paddle will get an unlimited stream of new customers for the exclusive food and beverage services and get to introduce the public to their climate controlled offerings. Free outdoor pickleball will bring unlimited newbies as well as pros similar to Calusa and Boynton. Boca Paddle Club wins. 3, the Beach and Park District will be adding to the very limited amount of purely dedicated free public pickleball courts in Greater Boca Raton, fulfilling their mission and purpose. The Beach and Park wins. Please push for free outdoor pickleball, which will only contribute to Boca Paddle Club's bottom line while not cutting into their indoor business model, and provide everyone with an amenity while allowing a business to invest in our North Park. Thank you.
Hello, Robert Duquette, 5351 Northwest 3rd Terrace, Boca Raton. First of all, I want to thank the commissioners for saving the green space at what is now called North Park. We had a very interesting meeting with the proposals from your RFP. I think that several of those proposals could certainly be beneficial to the community. But as I said at that meeting, based upon the legal opinion from the state of Florida, it says the authorization to sell, lease, or otherwise convey real property owned by the district is not among the enumerated powers set forth in the special act. And so based upon that, it would seem that convey would be concessions or any other type of transfer of property. I know if I was in the business of these people answering the RFPs, I would certainly be asking the Attorney General to clarify that before I put a dollar into this. project. Like I said, I think that some of these could be very good. Just the real question is, are you authorized? A few years ago, there was discussion about going to the state of Florida and seeking reauthorization, which I believe your legal counsel at that time said that could possibly open up a can of worms. You may not get what you're actually seeking at that point. But again, it seemed to be pretty clear 3 years ago when the Attorney General gave that comment. And lastly, at that meeting, the last meeting that you had, there seemed to be a lot of ex parte conversation of most of the people, most of the commissioners here, based upon your comments about the different, I would certainly encourage you to disclose those ex parte conversations that you have with people that are making presentations or bidding on proposals. I would think that would be a clear sign of transparency that would be good for everybody. But other than that, again, I think that some of these proposals look good. The next proposal, I would guess, since Craig wants to have a hotel, maybe a hotel on Ocean Strand about 20 stories high would be the next way to actually make some money. Of course, I don't think that is going to happen, but where does it stop? If you start leasing or conveying property to third parties, I think that you can certainly make a lot of money if that's one of your objectives. Thank you.
Anybody else?
And commissioners and Executive Director Brianne Harms. Thank you for all the, Joel Rask, 485 Northwest 69th Street, Boca Raton. I'm also representing Hidden Lake Property Owners Association as well. I'm their president. Thank you guys for all the hard work you guys do at the parks. Most of you know that my family's super involved with sports. My wife's a rep for Sabre, so we're using the heck out of those fields and we appreciate the condition they're always in. I had a bunch I wanted to say, but the main thing is really the family oriented aspect of what's going on over there. And I completely agree with Aaron, Commissioner Wright, as far as recreation is outdated. You look all over the country, there's these mixed facilities going in everywhere, but specifically for families. I mean, when you talk about recreation, it's misconceived, I think, because everyone looks at recreation as a sport on a field or a court. And recreation is actually defined as a refreshment of strength and spirit after work or a means of refreshment diversion. It has no meaning of sport whatsoever. So refreshment could be you playing cards over coffee, pickleball, cornhole, whatever. So for this being over there, I'm just asking for consideration for families going forward with whatever you do on the property. Because we don't have time to get these meetings. I had to get a babysitter to come here tonight. My wife's at Boca, who is perhaps my daughter. So families don't get a chance to come here. I sent you all an email with the signatures, and all that is showing there's a need. That's demonstrating that. I'll show you some facilities as well. But there's so many families out there who want something like this. They can't come here. Half of them don't even know this exists. They think the city runs everything. And it's a shame. I mean, it's a shame that there's no way to put something up there at the corner saying, hey, here's our master plan. Here's a QR link to show us information, what's going on. But it seems like there's this secretive thing going, not thing, but they think it's secretive. You gotta get in front of them. I mean, I heard at Little League practice the other day, one person thought a hospital was going there. Another thought an assisted living facility was going there. Another thought a high school was going there. There's all these rumors floating around town of what's going there. So it's just getting in front of people, but really specifically families and making family fun things there to be. I say right now we drive literally an hour to 2 hours to go up to West Palm to the park, or we'll go all the way up to Burger Shack in Jupiter. Suppose Pop Stroke opens, that'll be a great family place, but that kind of facility is needed in the city more than you can imagine. And there's different ways to look at it all. Pickleball is a recreation, but it's not inclusive as far as what's going on in the property. I'm all for pickleball, but I'd like to see something that's family inclusive there as well. So all I'm asking for is just consideration moving forward with whatever you guys do to really somehow get in front of families and see what they want. Because when you guys started this, you did awesome. You got workshops going, you got people out there, and you had their input. And all of a sudden, you had 2 times you did that. And this last time, it seemed like, between the rankings and then the public support, it was a toss-up. So it's kind of a disappointment not to say, hey, let's take a step back. This is a toss-up. Let's see what the residents really want to make sure that we get this right. Because that was your guys' motto the whole time is let's take our time and get this right. So that is kind of a disappointment to see that there was that toss up, but the residents weren't being considered at all. But hey, let's take another week to look at this and go from there. So that's all I'm, going forward, your consideration to families and trying to find a way to get in front of everyone. Thank you very much.
My name is Harold Chaffee, 6200 Northwest Second Avenue. I have to concur with that gentleman there. I think at the last meeting you had, basically you should have basically did a little more thought about what you're really going to do. I mean, most of the panel basically said that they wanted to hold off till tonight to basically discuss it in a little more detail. And I think that's what you should have done. What we really want here is basically open play. We want green space. We want open space. To build buildings, commercial buildings on municipal property. That's maybe the city's job. That's not your job. You should be restricted just to basically try to save green space if you possibly can, not build buildings on them. All right. And like I said, if you check your charter, like Robert said, the charter basically states it very clear. I mean, you can get a dictionary and find out a million different words that can circumvent your charter, but it all means the same thing. And you should really look into it. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Getting old, got to wear glasses. Jack McWalter, 1100 Northeast Second Terrace, Boca Raton, 33432. Thank you for your service. You are simply an outstanding group. Thank you. I also want to thank Joanne for directing me to 3 hours and 46 minutes of the 5 presentations response to the RFPs. Thank you, Joanne. That was a wonderful afternoon. In the next 5 years, there will be thousands of kids moving into Boca, which will generate a huge demand before and after school programs. The YMCA is clearly the only entity that could fill that demand with over 90 programs in the existing Boca Raton that is filled up today. They have a proven record that has no peers. They have hundreds of volunteers that are eager to help the kids. When you combine these 90 different programs with the 16 pickleball courts they are committed to build, this will be a win-win for all age groups. The other 4 applicants have built their business case around food and alcohol. Boca residents are deadly opposed to alcohol being sold in this so-called athletic facility. 2 alcohol drinks after playing pickleball for an hour, we will be well over 0.08, and this is a dangerous person. I'm also opposed to building a Taj Mahal for players for all over Florida. Your responsibility is greater Boca Raton, not Fort Lauderdale or West Palm Beach or New York. The Boca Raton YMCA will be managed and run by the community, not by some unknown groups from elsewhere. The YMCA is a nonprofit, whereas the other 4 applicants are for profit. There lies the reason why public-private relationships rarely work. Be very careful. Lastly, look to the future, say 5 years. Will pickleball still be as popular, or there will be another sport that is now the new rage? I don't know, but I do know that there'll be thousands of new kids in the Boca Raton area that'll need help. They'll need your help. A new YMCA that will cater to all age groups is an easy decision. Thank you again for your service.
Good evening, Tom Judge, Hidden Lake, 7100 Northwest Fifth Avenue. So yeah, I kind of come back to what Joel said. I'm going to reiterate, and I pretty much echo his remarks. Makes a lot of sense. I can tell you, being former law enforcement for over 2 decades, that some of the people I've talked to, I haven't heard this mentioned, but there's 2 people or 2 departments that service this community very strongly in a strong way. There's police and fire. I've been in touch with several individuals, and they are like ecstatic about the fact that when that came in, that concept about that outdoor, indoor, the pickleball courts, they're like, wow, I can't believe it. I'll believe it when I see it type of thing. Okay. But it sounds remarkable, and they're probably listening right now on Zoom. But regardless, man, that would be a win-win. I hope that there can be some type of compromise. Boca Paddle, I know they're professional with what they do. I've seen it, experienced. I've been here in Hidden Lake for 25 years now. Joe's president, I'm vice president, kind of like pass the torch, if you will. So, yeah, I'm a neighbor, I'm a friend, but I also envision this as a really win plus for the city of Boca Raton. We've been waiting a long time, and I'll make this kind of short, but I remember years and years ago, God bless her, Mayor Susie Wetchell and Dan Alexander, former chief of Boca Raton. I had a conversation at an award ceremony with them. And I said, how about putting some like a recreation or a sports thing, maybe a substation up that way? We're pretty far. I mean, that police department of yours is way down. It's almost in Broward County, if you know what I mean. And we're way up here, six miles away. And the response I got, and it was in a jokingly manner, I understand, but it's like, Tom, you're dreaming in Technicolor. And I just have that thought, and I can remember that was a lot of years ago. But so now it's coming to a head, I hope. And I wish all the best, and I'd like to be involved in any way I can. But I do, like I said, a lot of familiar faces here. And I just wish that this can make an impact for the children in Boca Raton. Mine are grown. Mine's out of college and one's in high school, the senior, but the parks are great in Boca Raton, and this would just be one more thing that if there can be a compromise of some sort, that indoor-outdoor effect sounds so socializing and able to play pickleball. And then afterwards, I've seen people playing pickleball. They bring a dozen of Dunkin' Donuts and a big gallon of coffee, and they're in and out, and they get their sweat, and then that's it. Where's the social atmosphere here, the environment? That's what Boca's all about. It's a friendly, wonderful town. I hope it can happen that way. That's it.
Any other public comment? We are not doing public comment anymore online. Nope. So we'll close public comment. And we'll do approval of the minutes of the previous board meeting held on August 28th. Joanne?
Move to approve the August 28th meeting minutes. Commissioner Ernst? Commissioner Engel?
Yes.
Commissioner Rollins? Commissioner Vogelsang? Commissioner Wright?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, and then approval of minutes of the previous board meeting held on September 5th. Joanne?
Sorry, guys. Commissioner Ernst? Commissioner
Yes.
Commissioner Rollins? Commissioner Vogelsang? Commissioner Wright? Motion passes.
Okay, and then approval of minutes of the previous board meeting for the first trim compliance hearing held on September 5th.
Move to approve.
Commissioner Ernst? Commissioner Engel? Rollins? Commissioner Vogelsang?
Yes.
Commissioner Wright? Motion passes.
A regular business, number 1, CGA additional services agreement.
There's on page 11 of your agenda packets is an additional services agreement with CGA. This is for the additional work that was done during this site plan approval process. It was an arduous process. This was extra work that they had to do, attend meetings and update plans per city requirements for the Patch Reef Park pickleball project. So looking tonight for approval in the amount as presented, $19,534.
Move $19,534 to CGA for work that has already been done.
Of the approval of this amount, I just want to ask the question. We're going to have pickleball at Patch Reef, and it started many moons ago. Bob said pickleball should be at a racket area. And then we started this process at the North Park that became to me more of a a discussion about pickleball and as an entertainment venue. And I'm just wondering if we're overbuilding pickleball. And I mean, I like the idea of it, but it seems like multiple things going on here, and it's an opportunity. This is your one chance to kind of step back and say, should we really do this, or find out a little bit further what is going to evolve at North Park? Because it's a very similar concept. And my fear is as a community, we're going to have a lot of pickleball built out.
Well, we're talking about the work that's already been done. That's what we're approving, correct? We're not asking for more work to be done. Okay.
This is approving what was already done, but I think Commissioner
Yeah.
Ernst is adding
Well,
to this
yeah.
conversation.
I want to echo what Craig is talking about, because, we've got 14 indoor and 4 outdoor courts now over at North Park. And one of the comments that seemed that prevailed through the conversation is that, tennis is not as busy as what we are with pickleball, and I don't disagree with that. But at the same token, I think that we still have tennis obligations over at Patch Reef. Ultimately, I want to get those courts turned back into that are now pickleball. But looking at the amount of activity that we will have with pickleball, and I hope that, as the RFP said that was given to us by Boca Paddle, that our residents will get top priority with the scheduling. The comment that was made earlier about, the outdoor courts having open play, that's certainly sounds good to me. The thing that we haven't done, and we had talked about this before, was a master plan for Patch Reef Park. And, there was talks about the Rutherford Center, which is now where the YMCA has their summer camps. And that's being utilized, effectively by the YMCA. But I think we probably need to take a step back and consider, do we need 18 more pickleball courts at Patch Reef when we're going to have 14 in one complex? And my thought, after talking to some city staff, that the one area that we could use at Patch Reef that would be an effective use of our dollars would be, and we've talked about a new field house. And I know I've talked to the folks that run Boca Hoops, and they're running into conflicts, even though they have an interlocal agreement with the schools. They seem to be losing court time because of conflicts within the school schedule. I frankly, I would like to see a field house of the same size as Sugar Sand, or maybe even larger, to accommodate, pardon me, I had this thing turned off. Anyway, I just want to throw that out for consideration. I think that putting 14 or 18 pickleball courts over in Patch Reef is probably not the best location now that we have supported the one in North Park. If we were going to do that, and I think that the facilities over there just won't accommodate the current configuration, unless we're talking about restrooms and other things, because the facilities over there at the tennis center are very inadequate for even tennis. So I'll close by saying is I would like to postpone any additional work on the pickleball site at Patch Reef Park until we can sit down and analyze if this is what's appropriate for that park, or whether we should look at all other alternatives, and do we want to do a master plan. But I think that we'll have met the need for a pickleball with these indoor courts as well as the outdoor courts, and maybe we need more outdoor courts that are free play over there. But I think consideration should be doing to pump the brakes on the pickleball courts at Patch Reef.
For the public's information, if we do this, and I totally agree with Craig and Bob, the work that has been done is being could be tabled rather than eliminated. So it's not going to go away. The money that's been expended would, if we do decide some day down in the future, the engineering and surveys and things like that would be able to be used. So it's not exactly a waste of money. It's just postponing, possibly.
I agree with the other commissioners as far as postponing work for pickleball. And I think Bob brings up a good point about Fieldhouse. We've been talking about this for years and we haven't been able to do anything. And there is a need for it. We knew 5 or 6 years ago that there was a need for another Fieldhouse. So maybe our money would be better spent on building that field house rather than putting it into pickleball. Not to say that we might not need more pickleball courts down the road, but right now I think we need to think long and hard about how we're going to spend our money and what really needs to be prioritized. So I'm with the rest of the commissioners. I think that maybe we take a long look and postpone any further construction.
Just one further comment, at the field house in Sugar Sand Park has so many activities that are going on over there that it's hard to get time in that facility. You have everything in there from fencing to Boca hoops and futsal that takes place in there. And we have pickleball scheduled there also. So that field house gets a lot of activity and, listening to some of the comments from the public, what better place to keep kids entertained than in recreational sports. And we do have a lot of offerings in that. But I was talking to someone just the other day who was looking for a basketball court and because his son was going away to college and there was no place that he could find an indoor facility to practice. His son had a basketball scholarship and he was wanting to get tuned up. So I think there's clearly a need for that. And I hope that we take an opportunity to evaluate that need.
I'm okay with pausing the pickleball, the 18, just to clarify, it's the 18 covered courts at Patch Reef that we're pausing. We're still doing the transition of the 2 courts to 6 for the season. The 6 total of 12. I don't agree with the fact that those need to be converted back necessarily to tennis. Cause again, I was there on Sunday. I walked through the facility. I looked to the left and to the front of me. Nobody was on the tennis courts. I got to pickleball. There was about 50 people at pickleball. So I'm not sure. I know the city's getting rid of their or possibly getting rid of their courts downtown. But again, that's not our responsibility to replace those courts. So we need to look at the needs of the public. And yes, the Butters Group and Boca Paddle will be building that new facility. But again, if there's no open play or less open play, we're still going to be lacking in pickleball courts for sure. There was a wait, the entire paddle thing, racking thing was filled up at El Rio on Saturday and it's September. There's 4 courts at El Rio. So just keep that in mind when we're thinking about pickleball. And if we don't do the 18 at Patch Reef and we're not spending that $10 million, we can allot some to kind of revamp that area of Patch Reef. And if we provide really good shade for people in between their games and some misting and things like that, they might be okay with the fact that those aren't covered. Because when you're playing pickleball, no offense, but you don't really care that there's no shade. You're playing for a good half hour. You get out of it and then you go sit in the shade. So if we have really good shade, it might be okay. Then again, we can maybe look into some sail shades that we can provide over maybe 6 of them. That would satisfy some residents. But again, I don't agree with the fact that we should be getting rid of those courts necessarily. And I just want to again say that I'm still disappointed in the results from the meeting. I'm sure it's going to be a great facility, but I'm hoping to work with the Butters Group to make it a little bit more family friendly. I know it's supposed to be serious pickleball and there's going to be tournaments and things like that there, but it's also for the residents. So if we can kind of integrate it a little bit more into the park, and integrate it into the trails and kind of open it up a little bit, that would be my preference anyway. And so thank you everybody for speaking tonight on the presentations that happened. I wish some more people were there on that night, but again, it was a difficult time for people to show up, but thank you for coming tonight and voicing your opinions. It's much appreciated. And so that's kind of, yeah.
Just want to say, Aaron, nothing has been decided about reconverting those courts back, depending on the need. I agree with that. But I think there are now 13 courts that are available for tennis over there at Patch Reef after we do this. I mean, it's possible that more could be converted temporarily. And I certainly want to address the needs of the community, but I really think that an evaluation of our needs is in order, because I think the field house is something that's sorely needed. We talked about the field house back when we were over, our offices were over in Sugar Sand Park. And I know the number is a staggering number compared to the covered pickleball courts, but I think we owe it to the community to make sure that we estimate what our future recreational needs will be. And who knew 10 years ago that pickleball was going to be so large when we were getting beaten up by the lacrosse folks for sports turf. And so at some point, like every other thing, you're going to reach a status quo on the demand. And I'm not, I don't want to build a nice pickleball facility for the residents of Delray and Boynton Beach and West Palm. Yeah.
It almost, thinking of looking back on it now, maybe this makes more sense in what we're doing. We're having somebody else build the indoor facility at North Park. And then we're putting our money back into the community for a field house, and we're not necessarily building new courts, but we're converting them for the time being for what's needed in the community. And even if there's 10 tennis courts, I think talking to the people at the tennis facility, I think that's plenty, or even 11, 12, whatever it is. And then however many we think that we're going to need for pickleball, the courts are there, which is great. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel, building new hard surfaces or anything like that. The conversion's pretty easy. It's relatively inexpensive. So I think it's a great option for us to provide more. But again, I think thinking about the shade structures even in between the tennis courts too, is something that we can look into revamping a little bit and just making sure that the shade is there for people, because like we've put money aside, $1 million, right, every year for shade structures, and we know it's important. And heat exhaustion and heat stroke are something that we really need to think about. So if, whatever courts we have there, I think it's something that we need to look into. And the stadium court also is a court that's not necessarily something that we might need there. Maybe we can convert that to some sort of, not a restaurant or anything like that, but some sort of shaded area that people can, buy things, snacks or whatever, things like that. Because the vending machines in Patch Reef, if there more people are going to be there, aren't necessarily something that's enough for them. So I just think we need to explore it a little bit more, and I'm okay with putting everything on hold for the 18, but I just wanted to clarify for the people for pickleball that we are still doing the 6 additional courts on top of the 6 that we already have.
No doubt, we have a lot of challenges ahead of us in this recreational area. And with the growth of pickleball, it's hopefully, we'll get to the level where we've accommodated it. We have wonderful courts over at Swim and Racket, that are probably easier on the knees for us older folks. But I think that we just need to be astute to the fact that, we need, when we're meeting the need of our constituents, taking a look at what we have and maybe evaluate the future needs. And I think that in the future needs, a field house is something that we sorely need. The shade, I know how important that is to us to be able to provide that. And maybe in the process, the tennis center itself, that building there might need to be taken a look at to making it more functional for the people who use that facility. So.
The vote, and then we can talk about the other things.
Motion and a second to approve the CGA. So you're calling that to vote.
Commissioner Ernst?
Yeah.
Commissioner
Yes.
Rollins?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogelsang? Commissioner Wright? Motion passes.
Motion to table the Patch Reef pickleball project.
Need to table it yet, do we? Can we just park it for a moment?
I mean, the project's out to bid. It's going out to bid. It's going before city council. So do we want to stop those things now and wait until we know what's happening with North Park, or how do you want me to proceed? Today it was supposed to go out, but we can stop it. We can stop an ad and we're not required to award it or anything like that.
I think that's.
It includes, the public comment is closed. It includes rebuilding the tennis courts. So I would come back at the next meeting and talk to you all about that project, and that component of it would still need to be bid. No, it's separate. You could bid on separate things in it. It's broken out. Saying that we're not taking bids on that part of it right now.
What we would have to do would be to postpone the bid, and I imagine put a notice in the media that we're postponing the bid process.
We can postpone it all, or we can issue an addendum that we're not going to do that portion of it right now. They can submit their bids, but their bids would only be good for a certain number of days. But we can still bid rebuilding the tennis courts if we want to do that. If you want to talk about this at the next meeting and look at the bid as a whole, we can look at that and just pull the ads now and cancel it. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I would rather do. I'd rather wait till the next meeting, discuss the whole package, and come to some kind of decision at that point. And rather than, I don't know, kind of muddy the waters by putting out an addendum to what we already have. We get the bids, but nothing's going to, make it clear that nothing's going to happen with them.
So we'll talk about it. We'll put it on the agenda for the next meeting. Right now, we're going to stop all work with CGA so they don't do anything else additional until we have that meeting. And that would be the opportunity for the public to come and speak on that as well.
Yeah, we have to adjourn now and then start the next meeting at 6 o'clock.
Recessing, not adjourning.
Sorry,
So-
recessing.
For the public, we have our second and final public hearing on the budget is coming up at 6 o'clock. So what we have to do now is recess this meeting. We'll have the public hearing that will start at 6 o'clock. Once that's done, we will reconvene this meeting and it will continue here right after that public hearing. The public hearing is like not even 15-20 minutes usually.
Move to recess.
Commissioner Engel? Rollins? Commissioner Vogelsang? Commissioner Wright?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Recess.